I sat in my tiny flat overlooking the rain-soaked streets of London, fingers numbly tracing the worn keys of my piano. The city pulsed with life below, but inside, the silence was suffocating. Gigs had been scarce, and my savings were dwindling faster than the daylight in these gray winter months. Desperation gnawed at me like a relentless hunger. One dreary afternoon, seeking solace from my stagnant routine, I wandered into a dusty antique shop tucked away in a narrow alley of Soho. The scent of aged paper and polished wood enveloped me as I browsed through stacks of forgotten relics. That's when I found it, a tattered piece of sheet music wedged between faded hymnals. The title was smudged, almost illegible, but the notes were intricate, weaving across the page in haunting patterns. An inexplicable chill ran down my spine as I held it. The old shopkeeper eyed me warily. "Never seen that one," he muttered, glancing at the aged sheets. I purchased it for a few pounds and hurried home, curiosity piqued. Back at my flat, I smoothed the creased pages on the piano stand. As I played the first few notes, a melancholic melody filled the room, rich and deep like the echoes of a long-forgotten sorrow. The music seemed to flow through me, each chord resonating with emotions I couldn't name. Lost in the composition, I didn't notice the shadows lengthening unnaturally or the temperature plummeting. That night, sleep eluded me. Whispers curled around the edges of my consciousness, a susurrus of voices murmuring in languages I didn't understand. I attributed it to an overactive imagination and the lingering effects of the haunting tune. The following day, I decided to perform the piece at an open mic night, hoping it might set me apart. The dimly lit pub was filled with the usual crowd of apathetic patrons. As I took the stage and began to play, a hush fell over the audience. The melody seemed to draw them in, their eyes glazed, expressions slack. After the performance, I noticed something different. The pub owner, normally so disinterested, approached me with a broad grin. That was mesmerizing. We've never had a reaction like that before. You have to come back tomorrow. Same time? I hesitated, the unsettling events of the night still swirling in my mind. But before I could decline, a chorus of voices from the crowd erupted, begging for more. Praise, applause, promises of future gigs, they poured in, drowning out my unease. My fingers trembled, still raw from playing the strange, haunting melody that had flowed through me like a spell. As I packed up, an elderly woman approached. Her presence was peculiar, her gaze too intense, her movements too fluid, as if she were drifting rather than walking. She leaned in, eyes searching mine. "Do you know what you've done?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet it reverberated in my chest like a warning bell. "What do you mean?" I asked, glancing nervously at the lingering patrons. "You've awakened my father's spirit," she murmured. "He wrote that melody to trap himself, his darkness, his obsessions. But now, he's free, and he's found a new vessel in you." My stomach twisted. Who are you?" "I'm his daughter. I've been hunting that cursed piece of music for decades, trying to destroy it. But you played it. And now, he will come closer every day you resist." Her fingers gripped my arm tightly, the strength surprising. "Do you feel him yet?" That night, after returning to my flat, I tried to brush off her words. I had to be imagining things. But as I turned off the lights and crawled into bed, a figure stood in the corner of my room, just beyond the reach of the streetlight streaming through the curtains. He was tall, his shadowy form blurred and indistinct, but his eyes were vivid. Watching me. Cold sweat trickled down my spine. I blinked, and he was gone. Maybe I was just tired, my mind playing tricks on me. But when I woke up, he was there again, now standing 6 feet away from my bed, his gaze unblinking. I screamed. The gigs kept rolling in, the melody's fame spreading faster than I could have ever imagined. More pubs, small concert halls, private parties. Each time I played it, the audience was entranced, raving about the music as if they'd been bewitched. And yet, he was always there. Watching. Standing. Always exactly 6 feet away. Even when I showered or stood before the bathroom mirror, he would be behind me, 6 feet back, his reflection darker than the room itself. No one else seemed to see him. They couldn't hear the faint whispers in my ear, the ones that urged me to play, to create, to let the music take over. One day, exhausted, I refused to touch the piano. That night, I collapsed into bed without practicing. A heavy silence settled over my flat, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I froze. He was closer. 5 feet away. My heart pounded. I tried to tell myself it was just a bad dream, but I knew. The woman's warning echoed in my mind, he'll come closer every day you resist. Each time I skipped practice, he advanced a foot. 4 feet. 3. I couldn't bear it, his presence was suffocating. Even with my back turned, I could feel him, the chill of his breath on my neck. Now, he stands just a foot away, his ghastly form towering over me. His fingers twitch, reaching for the keys I refuse to touch. If I stop for another day, I'm certain his icy hands will seize mine. The gigs keep coming. The world wants more of my music, and if I play, he stays away. But if I don't, I'm trapped. I can't escape him. He's in the music, and I know that, sooner or later, he will be in me.